That's the moment I stopped being polite. I stopped doing it the good Christian girl way. I told God I couldn't do this the same way again.
You're a better person than I am in that you stayed. You're keeping commitments that you probably shouldn't have kept.
It seems like you put a lot of stock in your ability to lie.
Oh, yeah. Before the big D-Day, I thought, if I'm not careful, she'll figure this out.
I just feel like he's sitting back there laughing at me like, she fell for it again.
Welcome to The Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode. I'm Jay.
I'm Lori, and today I've got 9 questions for Jay. So question number 1 is, did you ever think she'll never leave me so I can keep doing this?
No. I was pretty sure that, somewhere in there I had the idea that you would leave because my belief is people leave. So I thought that would happen at some point. There were multiple times that you had said something along those lines. And so I thought, at some point you might. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to think. So there was just okay, maybe she might, and not, I can just keep doing this, but okay, I can understand why she would leave, and she's told me she would, and mm-hmm. I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't want it to come out, was I didn't want you to leave. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there was any part of me that was thinking, she's never going to leave.
Okay. All right. I thought you might say something to that effect, so was there any thought in your mind, she's never going to have me face any kind of real consequences so I can keep doing this?
Maybe from the standpoint of the delusion that this isn't going to cost me anything, or I think many addicts, myself included, enter into that thinking it's not going to happen to me, or again, what we talked about a couple episodes ago of, if I just keep it hidden long enough, I'll get it figured out and nobody will ever know, and it won't really turn into anything. And so I didn't have that expectation, but once I knew I was found out, I felt like the consequence was you were going to leave.
Okay. Well, this one might be a moot point then. Number 2 is, at what point did you stop believing there were consequences for lying to me? Because it seems like you were like, okay, if I continue the porn, like that's the worst thing. The lying thing is just kind of a necessary move.
I can't say that I directly connected lying with consequences, but the porn use with consequences for sure. I'm guessing that somewhere in there it was all intermingled, like all of this is negative behavior, all of this is going to cost me something, but not the lies alone are going to cause you to leave.
Okay. Interesting. So you never really felt like there was any sort of consequences when it came to the lies? Like it wasn't a matter of eventually there's going to be consequences for lying. It's just in that as well, the consequences she's going to leave because it's all like one big mess.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3. Did you ever test my limits just to see if I would leave?
Not intentionally. I think that whole mentality of people leave was tied up in childhood experience. And so not understanding that there's like a subconscious or shadow side of me that was trying to create that very dynamic. I don't know that I was like testing your limits of, let's see if she can handle this. That's why I lied. I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want to find out what your limits were.
Okay. This brings up another question, so we'll call this 3B. Did it ever sink in? Like she's told me she would leave, like recently, but she's not.
I think what I have come to understand from that is in the moment that you say, if you do this again, I'm going to leave, I know that it's true when you say it. I know that it's something you fully believe and want to follow through on. And then a new moment comes and you have different information and you have talked to God or you've looked at something and decided, not yet. I get that, you didn't leave, but I don't think that protects me from you never leaving. I think it's just that that reality changes as time goes on. That yes, in the moment that you said it, you were prepared to leave, you wanted to leave, you felt like it was the best response to that situation. And then once the situation happened and other information had come up, that changed.
Okay. I don't know that there was other information. For me, what it was like was at first, it was like I gave my word. I stood at the altar and I gave my word that I'm not going to leave. And then it was like, okay, divorce isn't all that great morally, and so I'm going to stay for the morals. And then it was like, okay, God, I told you that I would stay, so this is between me and you. And then it was, God, do you want me to leave? And that took a long time to hear back from him, like where I had seen enough where it's like, okay, I get that old Jay and I would never be a good mix. But I will tell you something I did. Every bad conversation at that point, Jay would be in one part of the house and I would be in another part of the house. In fact, I could tell he knew that, he had gotten too heated in the argument or whatever, because he would go and get his pillow and he wouldn't even have to ask. During those times, I would take one more step toward leaving him. I would do one more piece of research. I would run to the library and grab a DIY divorce, book and start filling out those forms. I would start separating our stuff in the storage room, something like that. Because I would be so angry. And then once I started moving in that direction, I nearly immediately got into the sadness of it all. And so I might get one box separated and start grieving at that point. Anyway, that's what it was like for me. Okay, number 4. Was there ever a moment when you realized my staying wasn't the same as healing?
Yes. We've had this discussion where we would go on trips and we would come back and I would have this kind of moment of reorientation where you would say, just because I had a good time on the trip doesn't mean that we're healed. I think that sometimes your staying was, like you said, so many steps away from being in the marriage with me and being willing to reconnect, that it was a place of self-protection or whatever, but not healing. So, I got that. I think that came through, that it was more you were waiting on God, you were waiting on whatever came next, without it being this is a good thing. It's like, no, it's a uncertain thing.
Okay.
So.
Number 5, did you ever misinterpret my silence or my kindness as a green light to keep going?
To keep using or to keep?
Yeah, to keep using, to keep lying.
No. I mean, what I remember is during that time using, I was lying to you to keep from having those conversations. So it wasn't really that your silence was giving me a green light. It's your silence was, yeah, I'm lying to her. Of course, she doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
I was, to some degree, wanting to be back in recovery, wanting to quit, but just, again, we've had that conversation.
And I guess if I think about it now, I wasn't necessarily silent. I remember the first church we went to after the big D-Day 15 years ago. And that was a small group of 4 couples, people we had known from a previous church involvement. And I was very clear with what was going on. I didn't know it back then, but there was a lot of manipulation and deflection that ended up becoming abusive that I was talking about in that group as well. And I didn't think, I just felt like I was going there and was just the basket case in the group. And then I talked to one of the females and she's like, no, you're getting all of us to think. We're thinking about what you're saying and It's getting us looking at our own marriages. And all of them, all the guys had been open with their own struggles with pornography.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I was the only one, I think, that was going for more in her marriage.
Yeah.
Number 6, did you ever mentally calculate how much I would put up with before I left?
No.
No.
No, I mean, I don't know how many breakdowns or fights or whatever where I thought, okay, this is the last one. She's just going to pack up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
So there was not a, we're not at the breaking point yet. It was all of them were the breaking point as far as that reaction in me.
Okay. I guess when it comes to like the lying and the hidden life, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you put a lot of stock in your ability to lie.
Oh, yeah. That's the reason why step 1 talks about not only do we admit that we're powerless over our addiction, but that our lives had become unmanageable. That part of that unmanageability is the delusion that I can keep this up and nobody's going to figure it out.
Okay.
You know, that it's somehow there's just something about me that I'm going to be able to keep all these plates spinning and all this stuff going on and it not just fall apart.
Okay. Interesting. Is it, just as a side question, is it a source of pride, like I'm so awesome that I'll be able to keep all these plates spinning and nothing bad happen? Like I'm just that
Slippery.
sneaky and good at hiding things. Because I know that, there is the deception delight where if somebody thinks they're starting to pull one over on someone else, you can kind of see this, smile, which to me means, there's a lot of pride there. Did that go on for you? I mean, not the deception delight, but I don't think I've ever seen that on you. I think it's been more like, do you believe me?
Yeah, I can't say that it was a source of pride. I think it was, again, just a source of kind of a desperate tool of trying to survive or trying to figure, it's how do I delay you finding out so that I can get it figured out so that I never have to confess. It was just desperation.
Okay. This is probably out of all the questions I'm interested in the most. Did you ever see me as weak for staying or for never really putting up any harsh consequences, especially like before the big D-Day 15 years ago?
Actually, no. I think where I went with it was you're a better person than I am and that you're keeping commitments that you probably shouldn't have kept. Not many people would have kept. And so I think that made you more resilient, more committed. I don't ever remember thinking, oh, what a weakling, she should have left, or anything about that weak. Kind, gracious, forgiving, but not weak.
I do remember having moments where I'm like, I just feel like he's sitting back there laughing at me like, she fell for it again. So there wasn't any...
No. It was just like, okay, I got to get things figured out. This is getting,
like she's getting close to the...
Yeah, like she's getting close and I don't want to keep lying and I don't want to keep trying to hide all this stuff. But none of it was like gloating over, my secret mastermind, plan. And I've talked to the guys that I work with before that, there's a part of me somewhere in there that sits behind the big mahogany desk and strokes the cat and has kind of these mastermind plans, but that was all just trying to keep things afloat.
Yeah. To me, you've always come across as the person trying to keep all the plates spinning versus mastermind. It's just like flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. And we've met some people that have some definite mastermind, like they know full well what they're doing. And those are challenging people. A good majority of the guys I work with, it's all desperation. It's all just trying to, something I read today, they're trying to manage an inner problem with an outside solution.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing anything they can to try to make it all work.
And if you've been one of our clients and you wondered, is your husband one of those? Typically, we don't work with men like that, especially in the last, I don't know, several years. I know the questions to ask, to know whether or not this program's going to work for the guy or not. If it doesn't work for him, if she's like, the answer to your questions, Lori, is no, then I'm like, okay, well, let me work with you, the wife, for a little bit to see, how committed is he to those no's? Would he step up in the marriage? Would he care about losing you? Okay. I'm not sure where you're going to go with this one, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Number 8, how many times did you tell yourself she'll never find out? Like, were you sure? Because I know you were like, if I just clean this up, she'll never find out about it. But I'm talking about like, oh, I got this in the bag. She's never going to.
Oh. I feel like because before the big D-Day, there were multiple times that you caught me that things came out in the open before 2000 that I thought, she'll figure this out. If I'm not careful, she'll figure this out. Okay. It's not I've got this in the bag. It was again, thinking I was living on borrowed time.
Okay.
Type of thing.
Okay. I had another question. I should have written it down, but number 9, when did it finally hit you that I was not going to tolerate this forever? And maybe not date, because I don't know exactly when the date is, but after I did what?
It was somewhere around my sobriety date of July 4th. You came back and you said, you had told me about talking to God and saying, God, I cannot do this the same way we've always done this. I have got to do this differently. Mm-hmm. And that was when I knew that, this was not a process that was going to be tolerated to continue.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Okay. I would have thought it was much later. As bad as the conversations got after that. So, ladies, what I have for you, or wives or girlfriends of porn addicts, do you ever feel like your loyalty or your kindness is used as a weapon against you? That's how I felt about it. So answer that question in the comments below. And going back to what you said on that last question that I asked you, when you said you knew things had changed when I came back from that, shortly after D-Day. And I said, I told God I couldn't do this the same way again. Mm-hmm. That's the moment I stopped being polite. I think that's at least where it started, and it's continuing to unravel for me. But stopped being nice, stopped playing nice, stopped being okay with a double standard. Not that I went off and developed my own porn addiction or started lying to him, but if he was going to treat me a certain way, I was okay with treating him that way just to show him what it felt like. Mm-hmm. And I stopped doing it the good Christian girl way, so. Yeah. That's the questions I had. Thanks for being a good sport still. Mm-hmm. And we will see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.